Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to a Rebel's Compass. I'm in a little bit of different setting this week, but I am very happy to have with me Sandra Halayko, who is from Conscious Guidance. Now, Sandra is an energy coach where she works with clients that have diverse life and relationship challenges. Sandra is also a Reiki Master, past lives and life between lives, and a mindful and energy coach. So I'm very, very happy to have Sandra here with me today. So good afternoon, Sandra.
Good afternoon.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and maybe even how you navigated onto this journey?
Okay. Well, I've been a Reiki Master for many, many years and also had a high-tech career, so that did limit my access to a lot of clients, but I have done a great deal of energy work and research. I've come to discover discover something I've always known, but now we're getting scientific proof that all of the stuff that I've known is proven in the science arena. So that's also been a great help to get to get the information to people. Then I started helping people who were struggling with some illnesses, and I'd give them some exercises to change their vibration, and then they'd start to spontaneously get well. And it's just a matter of where you place your attention, your energy goes, because energy is everything. And, everything is energy, including the words and the feelings and the emotion and everything that you do. So when you speak to yourself in a poor way, you're actually lowering your vibration. So when those things started happening and people were getting successful, I said, I have to tell more people. So I developed this course, and that's been very good for some of the clients, and for me. I just find it so much fun to see people do well.
Oh, I can totally identify with that because I know certainly going back to the energy, everything's energy and the vibration and sound. Many years ago, I used to teach sound vibration therapy with tuning forks. And one of the things that I had the people that were participating in the training do was understand the power of their words and how that had a negative impact on our physicality and how it shows up. And how we did that was we had two glasses of water. One glass of water we spoke positive words into, and the other one, anything that was coming up emotionally through the training, they spoke into the water. And by the end of the evening, you could smell the difference between the two glasses of water that were actually poured at the same time. One smelled sweet and the other one smelled stagnant. And that was a powerful, tangible recognition of the power of our words and the vibration that how we use them that has either a positive or a negative impact on our physical body.
Especially because our physical body is mainly water.
Yes.
So whatever you're saying and how you're speaking to yourself, and really, if you spend a lot of time admonishing yourself for your weight or anything, you're not going to get anywhere with it because you're kind of fighting it. It really is a matter of allowing your body just to do what it needs to do. And when your vibration comes up, a lot of that stuff just falls into place. It's really quite lovely. One of the things that I teach is the difference between the ego mind and getting the higher self, information from the higher self. And that's always been a very interesting, for me, an interesting facet, because there are some individuals who are ego driven, and some of those. And then there are some people who are completely soul driven. But the benefit of having both work together is really what's going to get you into a more healthy body, a better feeling life, because everything that happens outside of you comes from inside of you. So those emotions really just reflect the lifestyle that you have. And if you want that to be different with your relationships, then understanding how the ego speaks to you as well as the soul speaks to you is, kind of like the key. And then there's many other things that you can do from there on in. So the ego mind The ego was designed by whoever to protect you. So it's the fight or flight mechanism that your body releases, your ego mind will release the chemicals that are required to protect yourself. If the ego mind feels that you're in danger at all, or that you're not taking care of yourself, it'll continuously release those fight or flight, which puts you into a state of, can be anxiety or stress or tension all the time, which is the ego mind feels that that's exactly what it needs to do to protect you. Now the soul comes, and sorry, there are mind-made emotions that you get from the ego, and those are guilt and fear and rage. There's a healthy anger, but the other ones are they don't feel good in your body. So those are created by the ego in order to control you to a certain degree so it can protect you. Now, the soul, when you receive a feeling, it goes into your physical body. And that's how you can tell, if it feels good, that's how you can tell it's coming from your soul. So if you have an event coming or something you have to decide on, what you can do is, if it says, I'm going to go to this location, and you say, oh, I'm going to go to this location. Now, how does that feel? Does that feel good? Or does that feel, and that's where you can start to distinguish the difference between where it's coming from and what's in your best interest, because the soul will always give you what's in your best interest, what is good for your physical being. And sometimes it has a heck of a sense of humor. You go, give me strength, and then it gives you a bunch of events that will make you stronger. So be careful what you ask for. So once you can balance those two things, then you can start to raise your vibration by saying nice things about yourself and getting in line with what you're feeling as opposed to what you're thinking. Because what you're thinking isn't always true. And that's because up to the age of 7, children are in a theta state, which is almost like being hypnotized. They don't really discern anything. They are observing and soaking in all the information. And that's where we all have and all get the programming that we observe. And, and the way adults respond to you or other kids respond to you are like, well, that didn't feel very good. So I'm not going to do that again. But you carry that with you. And the determination of how those happen, you can actually rework your brain, because they get kind of, set in there. Those beliefs get set in there. For instance, if a parent said, oh, you'll never amount to anything. Well, that's something you're going to hear constantly. And the fascinating thing about the ego mind is it will do everything in its power to prove you right.
Absolutely.
So when you say, well, I'm really not worth anything, it will go and find the events or circumstances that will say, see, told you, it has to prove you right. So that's where when you get that sort of conversation going with the higher self and the soul is talking to you, then you can start to redo those statements like, I'm really good. I actually like what I did. So every time you find something you did that you enjoyed, you say it and appreciate it. And you use the gratitude, appreciation, care, compassion, those beautiful feelings that will change, it'll rewire your brain. And eventually you'll start to feel so much better about yourself. And then your life changes. Your children change. Your friends sometimes can change because your vibration is higher. So if you have a group of friends that are in the similar vibration and yours starts to go up, you may not see them as much anymore, but they may come with you, which is even better for the world. So that's the basis of the teaching.
I can totally identify with that, being myself, the spiritual, emotional life coach myself. I totally understand everything that you have just explained. And I think for me, many years ago, one of the hardest breakthroughs I had, well, there was a couple. One was life doesn't happen to you, it happens through you, and I'm responsible for everything that happens to me.
Yes.
And there was some significant things that had happened to me that I had called in. for my own growth and my own change and my own expansion. And the other one was that I'm not my thoughts, I'm the thinker of my thoughts, so I can change my thoughts.
Exactly.
And, I mean, most people, they don't even consider that they're the thinker of their thoughts. They just listen to their own thoughts, and it's a
Yeah,
constant 24/7, 365 days of the year dialogue that they never feel that they can escape from. But you
right.
can, you are the one that thinks the thoughts, so therefore you can change the thoughts that you're thinking.
Yes. And I think what's really fascinating about it is they're not even your thoughts, they're thoughts that other people provided for you.
Yes.
So you can change that because you know that's not true. And if you
Yeah.
make that statement and you feel it in your body, like just give it a, breathe and then just give it a moment. Does it feel good? If it doesn't feel good, then it's not your thought. But if it
Hmm.
feels good, it comes from your soul. And it's,
Right.
the discernment is quite good. I have clients say to me, well, what do you think about, drinking celery juice? This guy recommends celery juice. It's like a good cure all. And I'm like, how does it make you feel? Does it make you feel good? Because if it makes you feel good, then it's good for you. But if you're
Right.
like, yeah, this is so much of a chore, I don't know if I want to do this, celery's expensive, then you could maybe look to something else. But
Hmm.
I think one of the things too is when people often say we're looking for things outside of ourselves in order to make our lives better. And then some of these knowledgeable friends will say, you have to go inside. You have to go inside. And it's like nobody actually tells you where the door to get inside is. But the difference between the ego mind and the soul, that's how you get inside. You get
Hmm.
inside by the feeling of it. And it's usually, through your heart chakra. And that's where you're going to get a lot of the feelings. And so when you're working on something or you're planning on something, just bring it in and feel it. Because you can't think yourself well. You have to feel yourself well. And this, works when you're doing the healing work as well. So if you can feel yourself through something, then your vibration is going to be more closer to the higher vibration of better things coming to you. So if you're, complaining, if you do a lot of complaining or even gossiping is really a low vibration behavior. And I get those vibrations up to always looking for something that's pleasant and
Hmm.
fun and that feels good. And say something, about people who that are nice things. It doesn't matter that they're annoying to be around. What matters is if you can find three things, you're going to be able to find more and that will change the way that person relates to you. So that cranky person who may be cranky at you may be reflecting how you feel about them.
Absolutely. And when you look at all of the ways that we're programmed, not only as childhood while we're in that theta
Mhm.
brainwave and we're just learning how to navigate and survive.
Right.
And then we go through the whole school process of how we are conditioned through that. And then through media or social media on how we're conditioned, we're actually conditioned to look for the negative in everything.
Yes.
We're not really conditioned, trained, or taught how to um, look, feel, sense, know all of those positive vibrations. And it's not until you actually start that journey of looking within and navigating that journey within that you actually start to switch that. And I know for myself, I've had many clients ask me, um, why is it that we always go to the negative first? And that's because that's how we're programmed.
Yes, it is. Exactly. But unfortunately, it becomes that programming is relatively hardwired into your brain. But the
Hmm.
good news is now you can rewire your brain. And that's just by what you were suggesting earlier, is just by thinking different thoughts and looking for things that will make you feel better. Because if you're repeating things that are not making you feel good, your vibration is low, you're attracting more lower vibration things to you. So it's a matter of I think whenever I start to work with someone who is, has a poor prognosis, I start with self-love. because somewhere along the way they've lost touch with who they really are. And to get back to that, there's that ego mind sort of soul working together that will bring them back to the real them, and that will help guide through your life. And then stuff happens, like wonderful things happen. And so it's really a matter of finding it. Like if you see your reflection in the mirror, say, wow, you look great today. And every time you see yourself, whether you're walking by a window, just appreciate who you are. And, it may feel a little awkward at first, but it really starts to take off. And then you start to feel different about yourself. You can say, I love you. Like, you're amazing. Any little thing that you've done great, say, wow, high five yourself. It's fantastic to feel that way. And if you feel that way, the people around you will start to see that too. So you're teaching them how to talk to you, how to treat you. And,
Exactly.
So it's a really important thing to do, is to really just fall in love with yourself, because that's what you're all about. And the ego is really helpful for driving the car and making sure the stove's off when you leave and doing all of those things. And when you can blend those two things, you have quite the powerhouse available to you. I think, I have seen people use their power for healing and healing their families and healing relationships with parents. And it's just an amazing, beautiful thing. And to watch it unfold. And it's just, we have to get to fall in love with ourselves and listen to our soul more than we listen to our ego. The ego's helpful, but it should really take the back seat. And the soul and that feeling of love for yourself and others, it's really the way to go.
I completely agree. I have had my own journey, as every one of us do. And I have direct evidence in my own life of being able to heal things that I was given diagnosis or prognosis to that wouldn't happen. But my belief has always been, given the body the right information, the body will heal, the body will transform, and you have the power to move and navigate through that.
Yeah.
And the right information comes from within you. I know when I have navigated a prognosis that I had a few years ago with a heart condition, the prognosis I was given wasn't good. But through my own journey and experiences over my lifetime, and knowing that everything happens through me, not to me, I started to uncover unresolved grief and a duty and responsibility and broken promises and all of those things that had been felt by my heart. But because of a statement that I was given when I was younger, which was, Karen's the proverbial rubber ball, she always bounces back, I never allowed myself to actually ever experience any of the emotion that I was feeling, and I just stuffed it down.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started to bring in my own balance of the image that I held for my heart, that my heart was healthy and well, that it had come to me in order for me to grow, to expand, and to be a better version of myself, that started to process through for me.
Well, and very interesting because, the physical emotions go and settle in certain areas in the physical body, and you can feel those because kind of like a broken heart is what you were experiencing.
Yeah.
And there's that disconnection from emotion, which is, really physically harmful for the body as well. Every illness and disorder has an emotional component, and it settles in the cells of the body. Now, the really good news about that is you can modify your own cells. So it's the way you talk to yourself. It's the way you can just assume you'll never get sick. And every time somebody goes, oh, so-and-so's got a cold. Okay, like, don't go there. Don't be afraid. The fear is really what creates a lot of the issues, because fear is provided to us through the ego. Fear is not a true emotion, because your soul would never be afraid of anything. So that's kind of fascinating about how it settles into the body. So your cells also know way ahead of time if there's something coming. So
Yes.
they start actually working in unison to prevent it. So,
Hmm.
sometimes people will say, well, I think I'm coming down with a cold. I think I'll go for a walk. So they go for a walk and they start to feel better and they go, oh, I feel better. So when
Yeah.
you start to, if everyone's listening, you can actually get a man cold down to 2 days instead of 7.
Yeah. Do you know, it's funny you bring that up because and talking about navigating our experiences, I know I hear all the time from people, and it was something that I used to say myself, if my body sent me signals of something,
Mhm.
so let's use a cold as an example, I would say to myself, I don't have time for that. And I would just push through. If I felt stomachache, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to experience this. And it would just get pushed down, pushed through, soldiered through. And I
Yeah,
would never listen to the signals of my body that said, rest, drink more water, go for a walk, or anything like that, because my mind was more programmed into the doing rather than the listening and the being.
right.
So, but and now through experience in my lifetime, I actually listen when I get those signals now.
Yes, because they can
But
turn
how
into
many
something.
of us don't?
Yeah, because it can turn into something much bigger than just a little twinge in your stomach. And it
Yes,
can
exactly.
be because what your body is trying, what your soul is trying to say, hey, listen up, listen up. And you're like, no, I don't have time for that because that's the mind. And
Yes.
then it gives you something else. So you may have an upset stomach, but it might turn into an ulcer, but then it might turn into something. And it will keep tapping you on the shoulder until you actually start to listen to it.
Hmm.
So it becomes worse. And I think part of what you were talking about was I just kept saying I didn't have time for that. It just means I don't have time to feel.
Yes, exactly.
And the feeling is what's going to get you through anything.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean you're not ever going to get sick, but it does mean you're not going to get sick very much.
Yeah.
Because when you pay attention and you do something with the what you're sensing, that's when your body will respond to that.
Hmm.
So that's a beautiful thing.
I do. I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that. And one of the sentences I've gotten used to repeating to myself is, "What am I feeling right now, and what do I need?"
Yes.
But that's been part of that journey of what am I feeling right now, and what is it I need right now. So it's again allowing yourself permission, or giving yourself permission to know what is right for you,
Yeah.
and to navigate that experience.
And I think it's also important for people like particularly healers and empaths. Is this my feeling or is this somebody else's feeling?
Yeah.
Because you'll take on other people, especially if you're in a room with people. If you're in a room and you don't feel really comfortable, start walking around the room and find a better comfortable area. Your energy may not be working with someone else. It may be hitting off of it, but if you're blended, you'll find someone that will blend better. You see it all the time. You meet somebody on the street and you're helping them and talking to them, and then it's like you've known them your entire life because your energies are similar. So
Yeah.
if you're at a party and you just don't want to hang out with someone whose energy is quite a bit lower, don't calibrate to the lower one. Find a calibration to your higher self. And if you're having a harder time getting there, then go look for someone who feels better. And that will bring you to a better spot. You'll have more fun at the party.
Exactly, exactly. And I was in my 30s before I even knew that I was an empath. And part of how that uncovered for me was I started doing my Reiki level 1 and Reiki level 2. And I started to notice that I would get pain in my knees, or I get pain in my elbows, or the client would leave. And then for 2 days, I felt dreadful. And it was again clearly I came into this lifetime to experience things first before I navigated them myself. But it was like that was what my experience was. And once I started to recognize that, and having conversations with other people, I was able to um, just release and let go of that,
Yeah,
and recognize it, share the information, but not hold on to it myself.
right. I know that when I'm working with someone and I'm allowed into, I get permission to go into their field, their energy field, it actually imprints on me. So I can feel a tumor, or I can feel discomfort. And it's just a very low level of it. It's just a determinant as to where it is and what to look for.
Hmm.
And I know that their discomfort is, probably 100 times worse than what I'm getting.
Yeah.
But, over time, I've also learned that, I can just shake that off. Sometimes I get
Hmm.
the mirror feeling, and that, can be confusing, but is it your right or your left? So I have to question sometimes, but now, I kind of feel like I'm getting a lot more comfortable with the feeling. So then I can say it with a lot of more confidence. And so.
Yeah. So for anybody, I mean, a lot of humanity is in a very difficult process
Mhm.
of navigating energy and emotion, not only because of what's going on the planet, but because of energetic upgrades within the level of humanity.
Mhm.
So for anybody that is feeling those um, feelings right now, what advice would you give to them?
So stop watching the news. Well, there is a way, though. There's something called becoming neutral, and which makes you an observer of what's going on. So you are an
Mhm.
observer of your thoughts, but you can also be a neutral observer of the events. So I had many people when the Ukraine war started were pretty upset and angry at Putin and those kinds of things. But what I said is, you know what? If you are angry at someone who is doing something wrong, you're actually feeding that energy field. So there's not much you can do on an individual basis for the other party, like the Ukraine, for instance, but you can just be neutral and not, feel like you have to take a side. And then keep those, you can keep your emotions high by constantly feeling that what you're doing is actually giving the rest of the world the energy that will reverberate from you.
Mhm.
And if you have a few friends or you're dealing with other people and you can help them do that, then you're really expanding the world. So eventually the world, I mean, it takes what, 1 or 2% to make the world different. Is that's all we have to do is be good about ourselves and feel the love for the world, and it will change. Like the trees are gorgeous, the snow is beautiful. Always look for something, and that will help you stay just as an observer, that silent observer of what's happening without allowing it to, don't bring it into your body, just observe it and stay neutral. Because if you have friends, if you have one friend on the left and one friend on the right who isn't as much fun, and you walk down, and no matter what friend you pick, it's not going to go well. So if you
Mhm.
just say hello to both of them and walk between them, and then that becomes your neutral spot. And I think that's how we're going to get through this, by remaining neutral on the emotional side of it, but feel good about what you have control over and your power.
Right. Yeah, and I mean what you talk about the energy of things, and you spoke at the beginning of about the equipment that's now available to measure a lot of these things,
Yes.
getting real tangible evidence that it's not just an esoteric woo-woo thing. Now we have the actual foundational background to know that the brain is soft-wired and can change, to be able to measure energy in a room, and to recognize the emotional output when, like you say, when you stay neutral or when you focus on one thing or another. So through your studies, what have you noticed yourself with in a lot of these things that are now being introduced to mainstream?
It's first of all, I come from a very left brain kind of like, I like evidence. So, and data. I know that's so weird for someone who does what I do, but I do. I just love it. Now, what I've found is it gives the person who is receiving the information, like if I'm saying, if you want to heal this, then here are some exercises for you, and here's why it works. Then,
Hmm.
and I'm not just telling you this is based on, first of all, the experience that I have with people. Secondly, I've done tons of research across the board, so I know what each person is saying, and it all kind of lines up. So, so that feels comfortable, me delivering that. The like recently, actually, this August, they have just released a study on meditation and how it can impact your COVID by Joe Dispenza and all of his scientists. And I just watched the presentation today. But what they're also saying by the meditation, if you meditate daily, the chances of you avoiding or recovering from cancer or any other thing is very high compared to when you don't. So that was like so exciting to read today. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
that's fantastic. So that I just sent off to a friend and said, hey, here's what I was talking about the other day when we were talking about meditation and illness. So this could be very helpful for you. So, I think that's the best part of it, is finding those scientists who are really involved in it and really
Mhm.
do the studies across the board, like the epigenetics. Now it's not your DNA that says, well, you're going to get sick. It's your environment and how you think. And they've proven that. They've actually shown
Yes.
that. So if that's the case, then I can help you get there. It's just that people need a little guidance maneuvering their way through everything. And that's why I think, coaching someone is important, because you get kind of lost in your issue or what's going on with you and around you, that you just need somebody to say, oh no, just weigh a little bit more, just a little bit more of this. And then, that's going to be so helpful for the person.
I totally agree on that. And I totally agree on the meditations. I know when you and I spoke when we were together, and I mentioned I create personalized meditations for people, and I've had feedback from people that have done these on a daily basis and recognize the shifts and changes because they're rewiring their brain,
Yes.
because they are putting that energy and focus into the positive outcome, to the healed body. That's how I did a lot of work for myself with my heart, was the visualizations and the daily meditations and the message, the constant message to my cells. And
Yes.
it's just fascinating. It absolutely fascinates me, Sandra, on, you know, even the thought of where we're going to be in 5 years from now, considering the leap that we've had in the last 5 years,
Yes.
of technology that's available, and the very fact that I feel that right now people are searching for information on how to deeper dive into their own beingness, to how to navigate a life that they know isn't working for them. But like you say, they need that signpost and guidance and that flashlight, if you like, into
Yes.
say over here a little bit, over here a little bit.
Yeah. The interesting thing too is the brain cannot distinguish between reality and imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So if you imagine a certain thing about your physical body, so when you're looking for healing in your body, what you want to do is imagine it like it is happening today, not what it feels like today to be in your perfect condition or the condition that you're looking for. So when you do that, the brain goes, oh, okay, fine, I get that. And it releases the chemicals to actually get you there. The
Mm-hmm.
body knows what to do as long as the thoughts don't get in the way.
Right.
And that's what you can do to improve yourself, improve the way you feel, even like aches and pains, things like that. Like, when we start the course, everybody fills out a form, it says where all the pains are on the body. And at the end of the eighth evening, they're like, oh, I don't have that anymore. Oh, I forgot I had that. So it really just, you're letting go of emotions that may have been stuck in your body that you haven't noticed that you needed to address.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they're all the powerful, powerful message. And I know you're doing some workshops as well. So if anybody wants to get hold of you, Sandra, how do they get hold of you?
Well, graciousguidance at outlook.com. And I do have a Facebook page that I'm starting to work on more, and that's called Gracious Guidance. And yeah, so either of those places, and then the email is probably best. And I can send information if they're interested. I just recently sent out a notice to not a large group. I really like to keep the workshops fairly small because the interaction is really what's important, and the energy that people, can learn from each other is important. So, 4, maybe 6 or something. I've done it with 2, I've done it with 4, but I like the smaller group. I had originally thought 8 would be good, but it's just too many people. The value is in the experiencing of the energy shift.
Excellent. So I will post your details below this video, and I'd
Okay.
love to have you on again because I'd love to be able to talk about different things and as we support each other and others navigating this journey of tapping into your potential and your power,
Yeah.
and what that actually means for us, not as only as individuals, but as a planet
As a planet.
and our own consciousness and evolution within that. Do you have any message just before we leave, Sandra, to anybody?
I think the most important thing is to love yourself, because then others can love you. And then when others love you, you love more. And that reverberates just throughout the entire world. That will change the world, your world and the world.
That's an excellent message. So for anybody listening to this video, I thank you very much. Please share this video because you never know who it's going to reach, who needs to hear what's being said today. Perhaps it's just a message that they needed this morning or this afternoon, whenever you're listening to it, that is going to prompt them to know that there is something deeper inside of them that is giving them signals, that is directing them to somebody that can support and to help them expand and grow within themselves and let go of perhaps everything that they've held on to this far that doesn't serve them any longer. So I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Sandra, I look forward to seeing you again also.
Thank
And
you.
have a great afternoon, everybody. Bye for now.